Okay, so today we're going to be talking about exactly how strong is Goku in Dragon Ball Daima. There's been a lot of debate over this topic. I mean, Goku's power level has always been something fascinating and heavily debated in general. So in this analysis, we're going to try to take into account his strength in the Buu Saga, compare it to some of his feats in Daima as well as statements, and we won't be discussing Dragon Ball Super feats as Daima takes place, again, between Z and Super, so the cutoff is the end of Z. Using statements, calculations, and scaling, we'll try to determine pretty much where Goku stands in this interesting new arc. I'll try to avoid using unnecessary calculations unless it's something fairly concrete, but having said that, let's dive into it and start from the very beginning. So how strong was Goku in Dragon Ball? Goku's always had a strong body due to his Saiyan heritage, and as a small 11-year-old boy in the mountains with no training whatsoever, Goku's still able to tank bullets in the face. He's still strong enough to lift up a car with Bulma inside of it, and the car was actually stated to be a Renault 5 Turbo. That car is 2,138 pounds. With her in it, she has a canonical weight of about roughly 106 to 108, which means that he was able to, as a small little kid, lift up 2,244 pounds. Absolutely ridiculous. He's also able to move a boulder when he's training with Master Roshi, which seems a bit denser and much larger than a car. Now, the amount that Goku's pushing here can vary greatly depending on what material it's made out of, the density, the friction against the ground, but it's safe to assume that he's pushing several thousand pounds here. I'm not going to go too much into it because there's a lot of variance here, so people do have calculations out there, but I just wanted to throw that out there. In his training, he's also shown to be able to crush boulders in his own hands, which shows a similar power feat, but in both cases, this was the upper limits of his strength, as he was pretty much struggling in both instances. We also have to keep in mind that feats of power to others in a similar plane, in a similar tier or similar plane of power as Goku. For example, when we see Master Roshi with a power level of 139 base and 180 powered up during the Budokai tournament blow up the moon to stop Goku's rampage, we see Goku himself later on as a child with that very same power level of 180, and even further down the line, 416 in the early Saiyan Saga against Raditz, and 924 specifically in that Kamehameha he used against Raditz. This kind of puts it into perspective how strong Goku is in the very beginning of Dragon Ball Z. He's already dominating some other franchises. During the early Saiyan Saga, Piccolo's also able to blow up the restored moon in just under 4 seconds, showcasing a similar feat of strength and showing again how that this is not an outlier feat and how a fighter with that power level of just over 1,000 can blow up the moon easily. If we're accounting for the energy to blow up the moon and disperse its mass, that's a minimum of 28.7 trillion megatons of TNT, but could be like a trillion or so higher if you include the splitting it into small fragments. Also, considering the speed of the blast, that's like 384 million meters in 4 seconds, which is about 32% the speed of light. So we already know that early Dragon Ball characters, before Vegeta even steps foot on the earth, are already able to have that strength to decimate celestial bodies and shoot them and react to those blasts that can travel like nearly a third of the speed of light. Now, how strong was Goku in Dragon Ball Z specifically? In the fight against Vegeta, Goku gets much more powerful. He's already trained with King Kai. He comes down to earth. His power level is not 9,000, it's actually just over 8,000, and he uses the Kaioken to actually multiply this on top of itself in terms of power and speed up to 3 and even 4 times. Later, in the next saga, the Frieza Saga, Goku's power level skyrockets up to 3 million with his Zenkai boost, which is already 5.5 times stronger than First Form Frieza at 530,000. Just let's take a step back, and First Form Frieza was able to easily decimate planet Vegeta. So not like a moon, not like a celestial body smaller than the Earth, but this is 10 times the size of the Earth's mass and would require a binding energy of 7.6 times 10 to the 26 joules, which would be about 182 trillion megatons of TNT to blow up. He then gets Super Saiyan, Goku that is, which is a 50 times multiplier, which brings them to 150 million. And then we lose power levels after that point because they're just too high and there's like almost no point. But I hope that kind of set the standard and gave us kind of a baseline of how strong Goku is as he progresses throughout the franchise. Now, how strong is he in the Buu Saga? A little bit skipping over the Cell Saga, we do kind of know how strong Cell is because he was threatening the solar system. And we know that Goku in the Buu Saga is stronger than Cell, so we can kind of use that as a baseline going into the Buu Saga. But Goku's strength in Buu Saga is critical is a critical baseline for understanding his abilities in Daima, because it's very close. It's the arc right before Daima. Here's a breakdown. At this point in time, Goku's base has become far more powerful as he's mastered Super Saiyan with Gohan in the hyperbolic time chamber, and in the Cell Saga is able to maintain it without having a ki leak. He later unlocked Super Saiyan 2, which is 100 times base multiplier, and Super Saiyan 3, which is a 400 times base multiplier. In the manga, Goku is training in the Buu Saga on the Lord of Lords worlds with King Kai and the Southern Kai, with about 2 tons on each arm, or on each limb, or 4,000 pounds total. And when King Kai changes that weight to impress the Southern Kai to 10 tons or 20,000 pounds, Goku's actually struggling a little bit until he goes Super Saiyan, and then it's super easy. Now, honestly, it does seem a little bit odd that Goku's struggling with this weight at this point in time, as this character should be strong enough to blow and tank a solar system plus level attack. But there are some things to consider, and that is that this is brute strength rather than a ki attack, and also the planet he's on has unknown gravity, as even King Kai's own has a default of 10 times Earth gravity, so it could be a little bit heavier, but I'm assuming the weights they're using are accurate. But I think the easiest and thing that makes the most sense here is just that Akira Toriyama just looks past this. As the numbers go higher and higher, it's more and more difficult to keep track and remain with internal consistency, but you also have to keep in mind that Goku is not going like 1000% here. He's not charging up or anything. He's just training, and he likes to nerf himself when he trains to make it more effective when he transforms later on. So you could just attribute it to that. Like when Goku's off guard, he literally gets hurt by the dumbest stuff, like in Dragon Ball Super when he gets hit by that one random beam. But anyways, let's focus on the Super Saiyan 3 multiplier for a second. As something important in this arc, it is that despite the heavy stamina drain, Super Saiyan 3 Goku was able to fight toe-to-toe with Kid Buu, showcasing his strength at its peak in the Buu Saga. Kid Buu has his own destructive statements, wiping out entire planets and realms, fighting against the Supreme Kais, also known as the Glyons, in Daima that's mentioned. And we do know that the Glyons or the Supreme Kai level characters are on Frieza's level or higher, at least initially, not currently, and wreaked havoc on the Demon Realm, as stated by Marba, who actually created Buu, further highlighting Goku's power. Though he did struggle against Kid Buu in Super Saiyan 3, he did demonstrate that he was amongst the strongest warriors in existence at that time. Now kind of zooming in on Dragon Ball Daima, Goku and his allies face new challenges. They've all been turned into kids. They've all been turned into children. This transformation raises questions about how their power compares to their adult versions of themselves in the Buu Saga. But here's what we know. We have some positive statements and we have some negative statements. Several positive statements suggest that Goku retains much of his Buu Saga strength despite being in a child body. His ability to defeat Tamagami number 3 in Super Saiyan 2 without needing Super Saiyan 3 demonstrates that his base and lower transformations remain immensely powerful. Some negative statements on the flip side: the transformation into children is implied to make Goku and the others weaker and less accustomed to their bodies, which could reduce their efficiency in combat. For example, Goku's inability to fly quickly in the Demon Realm might stem from these limitations. And a very important thing to consider is Dabura, which is going to be our marker for determining how strong Goku is. Dabura's power in the Buu Saga was stated to be as strong as Super Saiyan 2 Gohan in the Buu Saga. However, this is something I'm going to drill down time and time again. Vegeta, watching this fight, is super unimpressed, has a very unimpressed attitude towards Gohan, coupled with his own assessment suggests that Dabura was likely weaker than a Super Saiyan 2 Goku and Vegeta at the time. This is before Vegeta even received his Majin power-up, which further increased his strength. In Daima, Dabura's inability to defeat the Tamagami's forces to obtain the Dragon Balls highlights his power ceiling. We also know that he's not on the level of Majin Buu. Obviously, he was turned into a cookie in like 4 seconds, but just putting that aside, the Tamagami seems to be his power ceiling, especially at number 3. Given that Goku's in his child form can easily surpass Dabura level threats, it's clear that Goku's base in Daima remains exceptionally strong. He wasn't nerfed to the point where he can't even beat Buu Saga level fighters. He still can. So again, Goku defeats Tamagami number 3 in Super Saiyan 2 effortlessly, showing that his power is significant. Even when Tamagami number 2 receives an amp, Super Saiyan 3 Vegeta completely overpowers him. At this point in time, we can assume that Goku and Vegeta are still relative. They've pretty much been relative based on their behavior and on the fact that they continue to spar together after the Buu Saga. Also, statement that Goku makes on behalf of both of them shows that they're still on the same level, and that anything that Vegeta did against Tamagami number 2, Goku could have also done as well. Keep in mind, that was a Tamagami number 2. It's implied that they get stronger from as we go we go in descending order, 3, 2, 1. And that's the Tamagami number 2 that received a massive amp from Neva, his creator, who also created the Demon World Dragon Balls 2, an extraordinarily powerful Namekian. Tamagami number 1 is defeated by Majin Buu, who possesses a portion of Majin Buu's essence, albeit a very large portion compared to Majin Buu. This kind of further solidifies the scaling because as Goku's power comfortably surpasses that level in higher transformations, which I'm going to get into in a bit, in episode 18, against Goma, Majin Buu has to power up to be equivalent to Super Saiyan 3 after eating a cookie, showing us that initially, in what we would call his base essentially, that defeated Tamagami number 1 isn't on the level of Super Saiyan 3 Goku yet. Again, kind of pushing Goku to that, kind of insinuating he's on that same level that he was in the Buu Saga as a Super Saiyan 3. One thing that bothered me initially was one notable moment where Goku's admission that he and Vegeta cannot handle the Kraken, a colossal foe. This statement could indicate limitations in their child forms or reflect the unique nature of threats in the demon realm. I mean, we could also talk about the massive Megath child and his dog that the Z Fighters fought and struggled with in Super Saiyan, but that would be very helpful. Besides the fact that we do know that he was eating a Kraken in the beginning, and they still survived, and they didn't even go Super Saiyan 2 or 3, which means that could kind of counteract that negative Kraken statement and actually show us that they're still on that level again. Next, talking about flight limitations. In the Demon Realm, Goku's inability to fly fast may point to environmental factors rather than a direct weakness, but the Demon Realm's unique properties might interfere with their ki manipulation, which doesn't diminish their raw power. Okay, so just a little quick recap here, going form by form. Again, in his base form, he's stronger than Dabura, but slightly stronger than Tamagami number 3. It's difficult to say at that point if he's stronger or weaker than his adult self, but it insinuates he's stronger. Super Saiyan, piggybacking off of the last point, again, reiterating everything we've already mentioned, he was able to defeat Tamagami number 3, which was stronger than Dabura in his Super Saiyan 2 actually, super easily. That scaling implies that Super Saiyan Goku in his child form exceeds his adult self in raw power, even if his combat efficiency is slightly reduced, because he's faring much better against a stronger opponent while he's likely weaker. You see what I'm saying? So even if becoming a kid is like a physical nerf, he's still likely stronger in general to his Buu Saga counterpart because he continued to train after the Buu Saga, so he got just that much stronger. So when he gets nerfed, he's still stronger than he was. Another thing is just adaptation. So while Goku and Vegeta may not be fully accustomed to their smaller bodies, their ability to access and utilize high-level transformations like Super Saiyan 3, which was shown multiple times, shows that their raw potential hasn't diminished. Instead, they've adapted remarkably well as the show progresses to their new forms, and Vegeta shows an astonishingly high level of control of Super Saiyan 3, even though he didn't even have it in the Buu Saga, which just goes to show that Goku already knew that form, so he's probably just that much more experienced at that point. And finally, towards the end of Diamond, when Goku goes Super Saiyan 3 against Goma, he fares much better than all the Tamagamis, Majin Buu himself and Super Saiyan, Vegeta and Super Saiyan, and all the other Z Fighters for a very brief period of time, showing us that not only is he tiers above that level, but also a small fact of him still being clearly above Majin Buu to the point that he needs a cookie amp to match him shows us that he's still around that Majin Buu level of power. And to put the nail in the coffin, the final thing that shows us that he's blatantly stronger than he was in Dragon Ball Z in the Buu Saga is the new form he obtains, Super Saiyan 4. As he's losing to Goma, who's using a legendary item called the Third Eye, absolutely extraordinarily powerful, where Goma's able to pretty much manhandle everyone. Neva, the old Namekian who created those Demon Realm Dragon Balls, decides to give Goku a magical power amp similar to what he gave Tamagami number 1, and Goku enters Super Saiyan 4. Yes, you heard it, Super Saiyan 4. Very similar in essence to the one we saw in GT. Might not quite be the same thing technically, but he gets extraordinarily more powerful. It's still not strong enough to defeat Goma on his own with the Super Saiyan 4, but we do know that obviously it's an amp on top of Super Saiyan 3, and now he's able to fight Goma one-on-one, whereas previously everybody together, including Tamagami number 1, were unable to do so. I think that's kind of the nail in the coffin that seals the fact that Goku in Daima is stronger than he is in the Buu Saga or the end of Z. Again, just to conclude, Goku in Daima remains an incredibly strong fighter, surpassing many of his feats from the Buu Saga. I hope I showed that pretty clearly. Despite the limitations of his child form, against the Tamagami and the other foes, it highlights his enduring strength and adaptability. By examining his scaling statements and feats, it's kind of clear that Goku's power in Daima seems to be potentially, but slightly weaker than he was before he became a kid, but definitely stronger than he was in the Buu Saga. But anyways, let me know how strong do you guys think Goku is in Daima. Is there anything I missed? Let me know down below. Do you think he's on the level of Cell Saga? I'd love to hear it. What do you guys think of Daima in general? Like, is it better than GT? Is it just a GT knockoff? Let us know down below, and don't forget to drop a like, comment, subscribe for more deep dives in the Dragon Ball franchise, and I'll catch you in the next one.